Hey, what's up, guys? We today have got the whole family here, don't we?
Yay!
Don't say that.
Oh, we're not going to say that then. But anyways, we're going to talk about having kids, having babies, and some of the things that we've been through with our children that may benefit you and your children. We're really going to talk about first is nursing. So I've got my wife here, my lovely wife.
Stop doing that.
Our daughter here. And we just want to talk about, some things that we found out about that really helped my wife to continue nursing and things. So with our first child, she was born at about 26 weeks, and we were really blessed that she was able to completely be breastfed until she was probably about a year, maybe?
A year and a half.
Yeah, she was a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have great nursing lactation consultants at the hospital that really helped a lot. And one of the things I remember was that it was like such a varied amount of answers, how some people said you can't do anything to change your milk supply, and some people said you couldn't do anything to change what's in your milk. You want to talk about that for a minute, honey?
Well, so when she was born, they said that we would have to supplement.
When I was born, I was drink the milk.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
you would
right.
drink the milk, and they said that mommy's milk wasn't fatty enough, and that's just kind of like a normal thing. So they would have to supplement to make sure that she got the right amount of calories to gain weight and get out of the NICU eventually. And so we did have to supplement with some formula, but we ended up getting that at the natural food store at Sprouts. But anyways, so there were some consultants that said, there were women in Asia that would eat like a bowl of rice a day and their milk was fatty enough and it was fine. And then there's some people that say you can't really do anything, what you have is what you have. But I, at that time, changed my diet a ton. I got off dairy, I got off gluten, and started incorporating more fats into my diet, and we were also juicing a ton. But with all of that, I think I just was focusing on really keeping up my supply, and one of the biggest things that I saw a difference with was using fenugreek, and you will smell like maple syrup when you use this, but it's not a bad smell to have. So I did that for as long as I can remember, really, with her. And eventually she was able to get weaned off of the supplemental formula and then was exclusively breastfed until she was about 16 months when I was pregnant with Luke. But going back to your question, what was it again? I totally forgot.
We were just talking about breastfeeding, which you brought up some great points of galactagogues, which is milk-producing types of herbs and other foods. Fenugreek is probably the best and most well-known that I know of. And you also brought up a lot of the other things. Looking into formula, baby formulas, there's so many things in baby formulas, and a ton of them are not that good. So it is crazy. And yeah, I mean, other than that, we looked into CFT, or cranial fascial therapy, or cranial sacral therapy, which is pretty amazing stuff.
Daddy,
And we had that for our daughter.
Daddy,
What, honey?
I need to, you get this too closer so I can get
You were already
closer.
super close, but we'll move you closer a little bit. There you go. But anyway, so we found someone locally, and we actually had friends that did some free sessions for our other kiddo too. But yeah, the CFT and CST made quite a difference in the way our child slept at night and the way they nursed, for sure. Is there anything else you want to talk about that?
Well, with that, so just coming from a...
Ooh, Mommy. Wait. Ooh.
If you practically think about it, the baby is contained in quite a small space when they're in utero.
Look at that, Daddy. Look at that.
Yep, we're looking, and everybody else wants to see the other pictures too, okay?
Okay.
And so naturally they're just going to get tight all over because they can't spread out. And so their muscles and their fascia, which is a very thin layer of connective tissue, it sits right above the muscle but right underneath the skin, that also gets tight. So what ends up happening is it constrains and pulls the rest of the body so it can't function like it should. And so a lot of times kids that have great segue, lip tie, tongue tie, or issues with nursing, a lot of them can benefit from this type of therapy, which basically is just a specific type of massage that will loosen up the fascial tissue and will also loosen up any kind of muscle tightness. And so with one session with our son, he was having a hard time nursing, and we saw a huge difference after just one session. And it wasn't even the fascial type therapy, it was just muscle therapy, or cranial sacral therapy, sorry. And so that can just loosen up that tissue so it pulls the palate into the right place. That way they can actually put their tongue in the correct position and actually suck the milk out correctly, and it's very wonderful. The problem is not a lot of people specialize in CFT because it's not very well known. There are a lot of CST specialists around the country, but again, finding the CFT specialists are the best. And then with lip tie, tongue tie, that is a huge thing that happens that is so miscommonly diagnosed. You have to see on average 7 doctors just to get it diagnosed correctly. But there is a really great website for all that information. You can go to mommypotumus, and we can put the link in the video, but she talks a lot about the different symptoms that mommy and baby can have that are so missed, like failure to thrive, or the mommy has thrush, or baby has thrush, or baby doesn't sleep longer than an hour and a half or 2 hours, or baby has gas, or mommy gets clogged ducts all the time. I mean, there's so many issues. And so you can go to this website, and she lists all the different symptoms for mom and baby, and then also directs you to the #1 specialist for lip tie, tongue tie, and you can actually send him a picture of your baby's mouth, and he can email you back letting you know if this is likely or not, and then direct you to a specialist in your area to correct that. Chiropractic can help with this. We ended up having our son's lip tie, tongue tie revised. He ended up having 5 ties, and there's different places in the mouth where the baby can have ties, and that just disrupts the baby's ability to open the lips super wide and then stick the tongue out to actually suck the milk. So anyways, I would definitely look into that because that is a huge thing, like I said, that's misdiagnosed, and not a lot of people think it's a big deal, but it's a ginormous deal. And actually, midwives back in the day, they would keep their pinky nail long so that right when the baby was born, they would actually cut any ties that they felt so that immediately the baby could start latching and nursing, and it was never an issue.
Me.
Yes.
Yep, you.
Yep.
So some of the signs are hard time for the baby to latch, and if you hear a clicking noise, right?
Yeah, my daughter did that.
And besides that, also, if they become more colicky, right? Because they're getting more air than they are getting milk, so gassy and colicky, those could be signs of lip tie, tongue tie. And yeah, so it's called the frenulum, right? Isn't that the piece underneath your tongue called the frenulum? Okay, I have no idea what I'm talking about. That's why I'm a natural health guy, not a medical doctor guy. Anyways, but yeah, there's the part on the upper lip and the lower lip and underneath the tongue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the corners, yeah.
So right above your eye teeth, yeah.
Yeah, and actually we went and saw a great doctor, an oral surgeon, Dr. Bieneman, up in Centennial, which is a suburb, or it's basically a city of Denver, a city of the city of Denver. So that was great that we got that done for our second kiddo. They say CST and CFT can be very therapeutic for pretty much anybody of any age as well, anyways. just because a lot of the times we can hold some of our tension and stress and past traumatic events inside of our fascial tissue and remain tight and things of that nature. So it's just another type of massage that can be therapeutic. So that's pretty cool.
There's actually been, my friend, she used to do this before I even knew what it was. She would do it every week, and specifically they would focus on her skull, but on the like occipital part, so the back lower half of her skull. They would focus on that, and
You are never touching this.
and I never
You don't
knew what it was.
You just want Mommy grab it.
And there was another lady that I used to work with who was doing it, and her gap in her teeth,
Your coffee?
her gap in her teeth went away because
You are free to. You are meant to.
When mommy's talking, you need to be quiet and listen so that everybody can hear mommy, okay?
So her gap in her teeth was like wider before she started this type of therapy, and then she started doing the sessions regularly, and the gap closed, which is amazing because it was finally releasing all that tension, and everything was able to move into the position that it was supposed to be in. So that's pretty amazing.
So that could be another sign that you
Gap
might
tooth.
have had lip tie, tongue tie issues was
Yeah.
gap tooth.
And speaking from experience, I have had a lot of gut issues my entire life, and I have a pretty significant gap. And I think I had probably lip tie, tongue tie issues when I was a baby. But you can adapt. Babies will adapt. The problem with that is it's still not functioning to where it's supposed to be, because they're adapting. They're making use of what they have, but it's not the ideal situation. And so I think that's maybe where a lot of my issues stemmed from. Our daughter sometimes, or even kids that have lip tie, tongue tie that grow up with it and don't get it fixed or resolved, they will be picky eaters. And this is such a big deal. Like, parents just think their kids are being ornery or like disobedient because they won't eat their food. But sometimes the kid will chew the food just fine. They just can't swallow it. And that's because their tongue is not released to be able to make it into a ball and then shove it back to the throat and swallow it. And so if any of your kids have that, I definitely would look into this, because that's a hard thing for parents to go through, and it's a hard thing for the kids to go through, and everyone gets frustrated, and everyone's not really understanding each other because they don't know what's going on. So definitely look into it. I think that it would really change things if you could resolve it for them.
Right. So some of those other symptoms we just brought up would be
Mama?
texture issues with food, basically. So if you personally have issues with, like, say you hate blueberries because of the taste or the texture of the blueberries, or you hate XYZ, fill it in with anything that you want to talk about. If you have texture issues, then you could be somebody that has had issues with the lip tie, tongue tie. I believe that Bieneman told us he's even done surgeries for kids who are 6, 7, 8 and older, and it still benefits them.
There is a harder part to that, though, because, I mean, it's great, and I still think you should do it. You have to be informed of what's going to happen after you do it. My friend Amber, she did it with her son when he was older, and they had a really hard time with the exercises, because you have to do therapy exercises after you release it to help them retrain their tongue and their lips, really, how to process the food. And that can be really challenging because they've adapted for however many years. So then they get it revised, and then they don't know how to chew food. So you can see probably the potential of different frustrations coming about. But
Bye, everyone.
so when you get in
I
it,
need to help helpers. Today are running into the...
okay, say bye.
Okay, say bye.
Say bye.
Say bye. They can't see you. They got to hear you.
Say have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Okay.
Nice.
So when you get them revised and they're older than
Hey, I don't
one,
want to say bye, helpers.
that's fine, honey. Go.
It's okay.
When you get them revised and they're older than 1 or 2, and they've have an established way of eating their food, it can be just more of a challenge that you have to be ready for. So keep that in mind, but it's still definitely possible to have that revised at a later time in kids. And I think that's something that we've even considered with our daughter, because we believe that she has had some sort of lip tie, tongue tie issue, but we never got it resolved. And she's managed well, but if it's still present, and if it's an issue, it might be something that we need to look into as she gets older.
Absolutely. Thinking more about that too, when we brought our second home after that procedure, we had to do like mouth massages too, and that was kind of hard to keep up with. And I can imagine, mommy's hearts where they have to physically manipulate these sore spots inside the kiddo's mouth. Moms aren't going to want to do that. I mean,
it's really hard.
Yeah,
Emotionally,
and just the compassion that you have to massage this kiddo's mouth on the inside in order to have the best benefits.
I hope that the Papa help me.
Awesome.
And then he comes in with me.
But yeah, so is there anything else you had on that, honey?
Well, and the reason why you have to do those different things is because...
Daddy? Mommy?
Is because you have to, in order to prevent, when it's healing, in order to prevent the sores from kind of growing back together, you have to massage it in the area where it was lasered or clipped. So you think this is an open sore, basically, that's healing, and you have to massage right in the area where it was cut. And that is very sensitive and very hard. And you have to do that like 3 times a day. And so it's just challenging because, you want to help your baby, and you are helping your baby, and you don't want them to have a revision again. But it's challenging. I know that we stopped earlier than what we should have, but I think we felt comfortable with the progress that he had made. But it was still just, maybe we could have kept going, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it would have just been altogether better for him, but we feel pretty good with how he turned out with that. I will say the actual revision was quite traumatic for me. I didn't see it, but when he came back and explained how, they had to handle him, and how he was crying and how you weren't there, I wasn't there to comfort him, that was sad, and which is why our friends who do the CFT recommend doing CFT first before you do any kind of type of revision with a laser or scissors, because it can just be traumatic for the baby.
And it was really in and out, pretty quick procedure, so it's not like
20 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't really, it didn't take long at all. So the other thing is, some people, if they don't keep up with those exercises, might have to get it recut. Yeah.
Which is why they're so important.
Which is why it's real important, yeah.
But it's just hard.
And it's also hard because a lot of the times insurance doesn't cover this stuff.
Yeah.
And it could make a huge difference. And then the other thing was, when we took our boy home after that, he had a little bit of a transition period where he was learning how to nurse again. Mm-hmm. And, talked about that already a little bit with older kiddos. But I remember when we were there at his office, and right after the procedure, for the best thing for the kiddo, they put him right on to start nursing. And
for so many reasons.
Yeah, for so many reasons. It was
comfort.
Comfort nursing, and
just to establish that connection again.
And my wife looked at me, and she had a tear in her eye, and she was like, it was so amazing, because he's nursing and latched on so perfectly, and it felt way better.
Yeah, it didn't hurt me. Like, nursing should never hurt, first of all, and a lot of women give up, and it's so sad, because I've been through the challenges. I understand, like, getting through those things, but a lot of women give up before thinking, wow, it hurts, I'm just going to give up. But that should be an indication that there's something not right. But anyways, when he latched after the procedure, I could actually, like, feel him emptying the breast, which was amazing, because I never really felt him do that before. I felt like he was just kind of getting drops, but I could really actually feel the suction happening and everything just being the way it should be, and that was an amazing feeling, because then it was like, wow, he's actually getting fed, and he's getting full, and I'm supplying him his needs, and this is amazing. So it was definitely rewarding, for sure.
It was the way it should be, you know? And it is sad when so many mothers give up, and you know, because there's these studies out here that somehow they can mathematically show or statistically show that children who are breastfed have higher IQs, tend to have higher wages in their adult life. They tend to have less sickness, of course, because of cholesterol, antibiotics, or not antibiotics, probiotics is the word I was looking for. Yeah. And all this other stuff just from being breastfed.
They have like better relationships, I think, is also.
Yeah, there's so many crazy things, so many factors that they're now saying is related to breastfeeding, which, I remember when our second was born, he actually had a slight hydropic issue, and they wanted to wanted to put him on a special formula right away. No mommy's milk, no colostrum even, right?
Because they say, like, with this issue that he had, not only that hydropic, which means 2 or more fluid-filled cavities in the abdomen, his right lung was filled up with fluid, and then I think just somewhere in his abdomen he had fluid, so we had to be induced, and he was born early, just a little bit, and then drain his lung. But the whole point was that he had chylothorax, which is the water in the lungs. And so, but they say because of this condition, babies have shown that when they start drinking mommy's milk, they get worse. And so immediately before they wanted to even allow us to try mommy's milk, they were like, well, we're just going to do this special formula. And my husband, I'm so thankful he said it, he was like, well, can't we just try mommy's milk first before we do the other stuff? And they're like, well, studies have shown blah, 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 blah. And you're like, yeah, let's still try it. So we tried, and lo and behold, he got better.
Yeah.
And they were amazed. They were just like dumbfounded that he could get better on something that was supposed to be for him. I don't know. It was just so interesting how stupefied they were.
Yeah, there was this special formula. I looked into it, and the more I read about it, it was like not suggested for newborns. That was one of the biggest stars that I looked at.
That's so dumb.
And I was like, if it says right here, not suggested, I mean, okay, I get it. I'm not a doctor. Maybe they know better. But you know, it's just let's just see if mommy's milk is going to work first before we just jump to something that says on the label basically not suggested for newborns.
Yeah.
So
it was awesome to see him get better, and
fantastic.
In a way, like, just kind of, and I mean this respectfully, but kind of prove them wrong in a way. Like, nature's way and God's way is probably most of the time going to be better. And so it was awesome to be able to stand by that and, you know, humbly just kind of stand by watching it work. And so that was awesome. There was also another part to that. He wasn't like a typical chylothorax baby. Like, he didn't respond the way that other babies with this condition responded. He got better super quick. He didn't need extra interventions. He got out of the NICU sooner than expected, I believe. I mean, there's just so many things that I think maybe just made him better because of the breast milk, you know? So that was awesome.
Totally. I agree. There's so much involved there that I don't know what it is. Like, why doctors sometimes insist on interventions that don't seem to be necessary.
Yeah, or before trying something that's less, I don't know, invasive. Yeah.
So, I think that's kind of about all I wanted to talk about was mom and baby for this here episode. I was so thankful and happy to have my wife sit down with me and talk about these things, not only for your guys' benefit, but for our family's benefit, posterity reasons, and anybody else who would be listening. So,
and I would like to just open this up. I mean, it's my husband's channel, but I'm going to take the liberty to say this. I would love for anyone that has had issues like this or has questions about things like this, like, email or comment on the video. on your questions, and if we can answer them or be of any help, like, let us know, because I'll say fortunately and unfortunately, we've been through a lot with our kids. But the benefit to that is that we really get to help a lot of people because of what we've been through, and we were able to do a majority of our like resolutions with the issues in a natural way. So definitely, like, let us know your questions or concerns or experiences so that we can try and chime in on what we can help with. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've also got some videos on kids. I have the kids playlist that I made about how we've kind of helped out a lot of stuff, and most likely this is going to go into that playlist too, since it's on the same subject. But yeah, like, share, subscribe. Go ahead and leave comments, questions, email. I always have that stuff in the description. Shout out to the first person who told us about lip-tie tongue tie.
Mm-hmm.
Her Instagram name is
Real Food with Kids.
Real Food with Kids, Amber.
Mm-hmm.
She has been a definite great help in this entire journey too.
Absolutely.
And it's always great to have guides and people to help you, point you in your direction that you're going in.
Mm-hmm.
So we hope we helped you out with that. And yeah, guys, stay healthy.